Welcome back to Joey Movie Clips. Today, I bring you a 2013 Spanish TV series titled El tiempo, entre costuras. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. Seeing the servant wringing a cloth, the couturier was tremendously inspired. She decided to create an exquisite evening gown using the method of wringing a cloth. She went to the street to buy fabric and dye, while her assistant started a pot of boiling water at home. Then they dyed the fabric in the bathtub. The most important step came at last. They must twist the fabric tightly into a line and never let go. The two went to the roof, hoping to dry the fabric by the sun, but a sudden cloud came. The dress had to be done by night, and they couldn't wait for a sunny day. They pulled on the fabric and baked it on the stove, releasing and tightening until it was dry by the afternoon. Upon unfolding, the fabric was filled with dense wrinkles. This was exactly what Sira wanted. Next came her best skill, cutting. There was no complicated sewing in this evening gown, so it was completed by night. When the guest arrived, she was astonished at her first sight. Holding back tears, she said, "This is the most beautiful dress in the world." After wearing it, she was elegant. In an extremely solemn form, it represented the beauty of women. As an evening dress, it couldn't be more appropriate. The only downside was that it could only be worn once. Linda didn't care. She just needed to get through tonight. She was very grateful to Sira. At this opportunity, Sira asked Linda to do one thing for her, that is, to strike up a conversation with a guest named Rubio at the dinner. This person brought his mother out of the war zone. Linda readily agreed and went out cheerfully. At this time, Shira's neighbor, Felix, came back. He was shocked when he saw Linda, not because of the dress, but because of Linda's identity, an identity that even Sira was not aware of. Felix told her that Linda is now the most powerful woman in Morocco because her lover is Juan, the highest official of the local Spanish protectorate. Tonight's banquet is set up by the Germans to win over Juan. When Linda walked out of the venue, all women cast envious gazes at her. After greeting everyone with Juan, Linda began to look for a man named Rubio. Rubio was pretending to be ignorant, saying that he's not in this business. However, when he found out that Linda is Juan's lover, Rubio immediately agreed. However, this was not a business he could handle alone. To smuggle someone from Madrid, it had cost a lot of money. Linda relayed the information to Sira. Indeed, Sira did have some money, but it was meant to pay off old debts. She went to the hotel, hoping to delay the repayment period. The hotel righteously refused her, saying, "You have your mother, we have our business." The world has rules, not to be bent whenever someone is in trouble. Sira had no choice but to pay the hotel. Unable to save her mother, she was more panicked. Caring little about her own dignity now, she confided in Linda. She revealed her upbringing with her mother as her only family. The stories Sira told of her wealthy family were all a lie. "I've always been a poor tailor who's never seen the world and disobeyed her mother's words. I was cheated by my boyfriend who later ran away. Now I realize that the person who loved me the most was my mother, but I am helpless to protect her." She thought that such confession would break their friendship, but Linda held Shira's hand and said, "Regarding your mother, I can't promise anything, but we can try." She took Sira to the bank. They initially wanted a loan, but the bank manager provided another way. An English journalist was willing to help. The condition was to get exclusive interview rights to Juan and access to all official activities of Deutsche Afrikaans. Linda agreed. The next day, the British journalist named Logan arrived. After a brief meeting and exchanging information, Sira went back to her work and continued waiting. As days passed by, it was not her mother who came first, but the police chief. He questioned Sira about her visit to the bank and who the British guy she met was. Since Sira no longer had any debts and had retrieved her passport, she asked the police chief back, "Do I have to report whom I date to the authorities?" She then sent him off. However, the police chief's visit made her doubtful about Logan. She sent her assistant to monitor Logan, but the assistant was no match for Logan and was discovered quickly. Considering the circumstances, Sira decided to clarify it with Logan directly. Coincidentally, Logan came over, intending to take her to meet her mother. As they drove to the outskirts of the town, Sira was full of anticipation and apprehension. Finally, another car came from the opposite direction. Logan cautiously went first to check the situation. As her mother appeared, Sira rushed over. They hadn't seen each other for 3 years. Under the devastation of the war, her once strong mother had become timid. Only when Sira embraced her did the elderly woman feel the warmth of this world again. They held each other for a long time. Sira had finally grown into someone on whom her mother could rely. Fortunately, it wasn't too late. Perhaps it is never too late to shower your love on your family, whether you're in your 20s, 30s, or 40s. One day, when you are weary from experiences of love, hate, loss, and the bitterness and sweetness of life, you would suddenly look back and realize that the ones who've always been there for you are your parents and close family. At that moment, go ahead and love them. It's not too late. For them, the moment you turn around is never too late. To express her gratitude to Logan, Sira paid him a visit in person. Logan was a great conversationalist, and the atmosphere had been pleasant all along. As she was about to leave, he invited Sira to be his date to the banquet the next day. Owing him a favor, Sira couldn't refuse. It was her first time attending such a high society banquet. Felix and the landlady offered her their advice. In the end, she mesmerized Logan to speechlessness. As they were leaving, the landlady warned Logan not to take advantage of her girl, or he wouldn't be able to leave Deutsche Afrikaans. The banquet that day was to welcome the wedding preparations for the Spanish leader Franco, and it was grand. However, Sira, who had never attended such a banquet, felt as if she was on home ground. Even though it was her first time attending a banquet in this upper society, it surprisingly seemed like everyone knew her. This was because her business had already spread among the circle of high society ladies, and they were all wearing her designs. She stood on the balcony at night, looking at the ladies with satisfaction. Following her line of sight, Logan made an unambiguous request. He wanted Sira to listen in on what these ladies' husbands were discussing. Without giving it much thought, Sira agreed as a way to repay her obligation to him. She acted nonchalantly, strolling behind the men while touching up her makeup, when suddenly someone bumped into her. The man who bumped into her was a close confidant of the Spanish leader. However, the way he looked at Sira made her uncomfortable. This unintentional collision made Shira's hand wound reopen. She went to the restroom to attend to it. As she was descending the stairs, the confidant and a German man were ascending. To avoid the two men, Sira darted into a room. Surprisingly, the two men followed her in. She couldn't avoid overhearing their conversation and repeated the information she had overheard, that the Germans were planning to build a radar station in Morocco, to Logan. Logan was overjoyed. Sira was unaware that beneath Logan's journalist identity, he was, in fact, a British spy. Also, due to Logan's attentive nature, she was gradually developing feelings for him. Recently, her friend Linda seemed to be in low spirits. On Logan's suggestion, they went on an outing. Felix's flamboyant antics and nonstop chatter brought a lot of joy to Linda. Logan was flirty with Sira, resulting in an extremely cheerful day for the group. Their friendships and romantic feelings were getting warmer. However, right at that moment, Linda received a telegram that her husband, Peter, was coming from India. Her mood plunged instantly. Several years ago, she had a child that Peter refused to care for. Eventually, she left with her child, and Peter never appeared. She thought her life would be tough afterwards, but luckily, she met one. One was intelligent and funny. He was not a typical military man, but rather an erudite civil servant who knew everything about history and geography. During their mutual attraction, he casually picked up two stones and asked her to choose. If she chose the black one, they were destined to be apart, and if she chose the white one, they were meant to be together. Of course, she ended up choosing the white stone. These years, they lived happily, and the only regret was that when she left, she didn't formally divorce Peter. Now, with the military tension in India, Peter wanted to flee and make a fortune by coming to her. Peter arrived as he said he would. He didn't care or mind that his wife was with another man. As always, he spent his days in debauchery, just like when he was in India. This place was just his transit point. If the military tension eased, he would return to India. If it stayed tense, he would return to England. Linda put up with everything, waiting for him to leave. One day, Linda ran into Juan on the street. As soon as they met, they recognized each other. Juan told Peter, "Your wife is a friend of the Protectorate. If you wish, I can arrange for you to tour the Straits." Juan's words contained a veiled warning to Peter and were meant to give Linda some support. Peter had not expected Linda's new man to be the highest official in the Protectorate. Peter toned down his act a bit under Linda's scolding and planned to leave soon. However, to Linda's surprise, a few days later, Peter suddenly changed his mind and wanted to take both Linda and their son away. The news devastated Linda. Sira, who learned about it immediately, urged Linda to refuse. But Linda couldn't bear the thought of her son being taken away. Sira called Logan over. Since Logan was also British, she asked him to persuade Peter on the grounds of being a fellow countryman. This was a far-fetched reason, and Logan reluctantly obliged. But when he found Peter, Peter was getting into a car with Germans. Logan quickly discovered the reason. Peter had fallen into a trap set by the Germans and now owed them gambling debts. The Germans were afraid that Linda might influence one to side with the British, so they had Peter take Linda away. The IOU and passports were now in the hands of Braun, a German embassy official. Sira knew Braun, his wife was Shira's client. Time ago, she was disgruntled because her only good fabric was taken away by a plastic bestie. Catching on to this, the next day, Shira brought new fabric for a visit. Eager to outdo her friend, Braun's wife quickly took the bait. During the process of fetching the money, Shira saw the location of the safe. The next step was to steal the content. But when Logan said it would take 2 hours, Shira panicked. Braun's wife was just coming to fetch clothes. There was no way she could delay her for 2 hours. When it came time for the operation, as soon as Braun's wife went out, Logan went into the apartment. Shira brought out hot coffee and sweet cakes in an effort to delay Braun's wife for an additional 10 to 20 minutes. But Braun's wife was still rushing. Shira had no choice but to bring out her trump card, a dress made a size too big. Unexpectedly, Braun's wife had recently gained weight, and it fitted her perfectly. If she had known, she would have chosen the smaller one. Now that it fit, Braun's wife was ready to leave. On the other side, Logan was still picking the lock. Just when Shira was at her wit's end, she thought of her mother. After learning about the situation, her mother stepped in.